never called, so we have a change in the schedule. Mr. Kaplowitz is running a few minutes late, but he will be here to debate Mr. Ball at the end of the evening. But all the parties involved have agreed that the county executive debate can happen now. And so, to my right, we have MaryEllen Odell, running on the Independence Party line. On to her right, we have Vincent Leibell, running on the Republican and Conservative Party lines. We will start, again, the format, just as a refresher, 90 seconds to answer each question, 2 rounds of 30-second rebuttals, and each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. The first question will be asked by Eric Gross.
Good evening, Senator. Good evening, Legislator. With the state's economic troubles and an ever-increasing tax burden, consolidation of government and government services has become a popular topic. Senator Leibell, you have raised the question of consolidating agencies, and Legislator Odell, you have suggested that Putnam County school systems merge into a unified one. Which agencies or governments do you think are best targets for consolidation, and what can you actually do about it as county executive?
And we will start with Legislator Odell, 90 seconds.
Thank you. Actually, just for clarification, I did not talk about merging districts. What I talked about was keeping the existing individuality in the home rule districts. What I talked about was taking a model that was implemented in Fairfax, Virginia, whereby they use a Commissioner of Education. That Commissioner of Education's position would then eliminate all of the different superintendent positions, and then they upload the heavy administrative costs that go along with that. In Fairfax, Virginia, their numbers are staggering as compared to what we have here as far as what we could see in savings. They modeled a $1 million assessed home as showing $6,000 and change in taxes. If we took that same model here, we would reduce what is a $20,000 a year school tax burden down. Now, in addition to consolidation, I will say this. I, as a legislator, have been in front of, and probably the first to seriously discuss the consolidation of services and agencies, also sharing. Sharing would probably be the first and most realistic step when it came to consolidation. There's low-bearing fruit. We certainly realize that in the repetitiveness and redundancies and an awful lot of government services that are provided these days.
Yeah, the Fairfax model is probably most appropriate to compare to Westchester County. Their populations are very similar. They have urban as well as suburban. But nonetheless, there are pretty good signs that you can take a lot from Fairfax and apply it here. The idea is not necessarily that you have to unify at the top. What you can do is consolidate at various levels. I've often thought that we have a great system in New York State, the BOCES system, which is very good in supporting our schools. That could be used to support not only our schools, but all of our local governments as well, as an example, as a model for purchasing. They will do purchasing for all the various schools within a region, Northern Westchester, Putnam, BOCES. That could be expanded and given the authority to help all of our towns, villages, and our local counties also.
And I encourage you both to use this time to highlight the differences between yourselves. 30 seconds to Legislator Odell.
Yes, certainly. What's most frustrating, I think, for most of us who are taxpayers is the actual inability for Albany to hear our cries and pleas in reduction of school taxes. For way too long, our school taxes have been rising exponentially. We as taxpayers for school districts are completely overburdened by the unfunded mandates that Albany refuses to address and refuses to institute any kind of reform. I believe that the taxpayers deserved a lot more than they've received from Albany. Now, personally, as a legislator...
Time is up. Senator Leibell, 30 seconds.
Yeah, actually, I think we're all very frustrated with the issue of taxes at all levels in New York State and nationally. I would point out, though, most of your school costs are personnel-oriented, and they are not mandated by Albany, and that'll usually run, on the average district, about 75% of your cost. That's not something that comes out of Albany or Washington. That's something that's locally decided. The question has come up before, should that be something that's determined by Albany, for instance, almost like a centralized system like New York City?
So time is up. Legislator Odell, 30 seconds.
Yeah, thank you. I think that the dysfunction begins in Albany with the lack of legislation that legislates towards the taxpayers. I think that for too long, and the reason we're in this mess is because the legislation in Albany has been tailored specifically to special interests and to lobbyists. Therefore, the taxpayers have been disregarded. The constituency themselves have been left behind, while the special interests and the lobbyists have been considerably pandered to.
Once again, on the tax issue, in my years in Albany, I've never proposed a new tax. My opponent has proposed a new tax, the mortgage tax, which I like to refer to as the Odell tax.
Our next question will be asked by Manchester.
Good evening, Senator and Legislator. Senator Leibell, your campaign has argued that your, quote, established relationships with state and local officials that will serve Putnam County well. Legislator Odell, you argue that Senator Leibell's connections to Albany will end up costing Putnam County more. Please explain your stance and why you would more effectively serve Putnam than your opponent.
Senator Leibell, 90 seconds.
It's not only a question of the people you've met in government and in the private sector. It's a question of learning what they are for, what they stand for, the policies they support. I will tell you quite candidly, I've learned a great deal from people in different parties from myself. I've learned to work with them, and I think that bodes well for anybody who wants to serve in a position of county executive. It's nice to be able to pick up the phone and know who you're calling at the other end of the line.
I want to just take a brief moment here to enter into the record, the mortgage tax voting records, that my opponent, Vinnie Leibell, supported mortgage tax for every surrounding county. I stopped at 3, Rockland, Westchester, and Dutchess. So Vinnie, while you prefer to refer to this as the Odell tax, I would suggest that you actually supported it well before the Putnam County Clerk, Dennis Sant, came to me and asked me if I would be kind enough to vet this situation, but you were way ahead of me. You had already voted for it. Now, as far as how I think that I could establish a relationship, as a legislator, I have already begun to build strong relationships with the colleagues that I have been working with, as well as the town supervisors and the town boards. But most importantly, I have striven to build a very strong relationship with my constituents. I have been here my entire life. I have worked with sports, I've worked with veterans, I have worked with seniors. I know every single issue that we all face. I, like you, live paycheck to paycheck. I, like you, know exactly what this economic crisis is having on us. And I, like you, know that Albany has abandoned us and has left us to fend for ourselves.
Just to clarify something, MaryEllen, the tax structure and the tax base in Rockland County and in Dutchess County and in Westchester County is entirely different from Putnam County. We do not have much of an economic base. Their mortgage taxes, they were starting at a much lower level. You would have gone way above them. So I think that you're comparing apples and oranges.
What I'm really trying to say, Vinny, is that you say one thing and you do another. And you can't get away with that anymore. Because the fact of the matter is, the last time we discussed this, you tried to refute the fact, or actually you said you didn't know. You didn't know what you did with that one vote that you had up in Albany.
Well, I did.
And I, in fact, have it on the record here that you did support mortgage tax
and you don't
in New York State.
The difference between Rockland County
Vinny, I do understand. Clearly, I do understand.
Well, all right, you got to get it.
Disorder there, so we can close this topic. Why don't we have 30 seconds for Senator Leibell, and then 30 seconds for MaryEllen Odell. Continue on this topic.
On that topic, MaryEllen, Rockland County, Westchester, Dutchess, they have a different tax base than we do. We have a very small commercial tax base. For them also, the mortgage tax that they were enacting was very different from the one you were proposing. We were in a disadvantaged position because of the one you were proposing. That's what makes the distinction. I don't really think that is very hard to understand.
No, Vinny, let me help you out here, okay? Rockland County has a huge commercial tax base. Putnam County does not. We live on 2 ways to run our business in Putnam County: property tax or sales tax. Rockland County has a tremendous sales tax base. If anybody did not need that additional mortgage tax, it was Rockland. Why we vetted it and thought about it pursuant to the request of County Clerk Dennis Stamp was because we have a limited base for commercial growth in this county because we are a watershed
Time's up.
county.
Well, we've established you want a new tax.
All right, the next question will be asked, but do you want to have a final word there, MaryEllen, because the senator took one?
I think we could
5
probably,
seconds.
you know,
Next question will be asked by Eric Gross.
Senator, you have accused Legislator Odell of wasting taxpayer dollars on the new Board of Elections facility and on the Kent Senior Center. Legislator Odell, you have accused the senator of funneling state money to his personal nonprofits for his own political gain. Could both of you explain those positions, please?
We'll start with MaryEllen Odell, 90 seconds.
okay. I am one of 9 legislators. We supported the fact that a Kent Senior building that was originally proposed to us at $4 million had all of a sudden spiraled out of control to 8. And also in that time, we faced the worst economic crisis. We went completely upside down from that time. What we determined was that we do want to see a senior center in this community. However, we will not add additional tax burden to seniors who are already on the margin of whether they can afford to live here, as well as our young families who are struggling month to month. Now, it's interesting, Vinny, that you accuse me of wasting tax dollars. You, of all people, who have the 3rd highest spending in Albany, you who take 30% of your so-called pork member items and funnel them into these sham profits and and foundations, which are supposed to be charities, by the way. They're 501c3s, in case you all recognize a 501c is supposed to be charitable. The only charity I see in the 990s of that are law firms, accountants, engineers, and consulting firms. Those are the only people that have received any money from these charity 501c3s of our money.
Well, MaryEllen, as you should know, because you are on one of the boards, in fact, sign PAC returns. You go down to 50 Main Street in Brewster. It's the only new construction you'll see in Brewster in many a year. 100% occupancy there. You go down to Marvin Avenue, you'll see 100% occupancy there with the senior citizens. We're very particularly proud of those projects. I would hope that you would have been proud of them also. With respect to Kent Seniors, yeah, you did blow $1 million. You blew $1 million. You didn't have your hand on the tiller. In respect to the Board of Elections, my complaint there is that is the least used department in county government. They have rather seasonal work. I can tell you about that. Now, that seasonal work, nobody's going to be walking in there on a daily basis. That facility could have been used for the Carmel senior citizens. Go up and see where they are now in the Smith campus. They have absolutely horrendous conditions for the seniors. That could have been used for them. And it provides what's very scarce in this area and has water and sewer, so you could have given them meals there. That would have been a most logical place for that facility to have been used for.
Okay, let me just suggest this. Did anybody elect an Albany state senator who was going to engage in real estate land development transactions? Did anybody think that when they voted for a New York State senator that they wanted them to engage in real estate land development? And for the record, here is the 990 for the Putnam Community Foundation. I did not sign that, I was a director. Talking about your not-for-profits and what the good does is, again, let me show you all this $300,000, 14 by 32 foot wooden footbridge, as we refer to as the bridge to nowhere.
Senator Leibell.